Hello and welcome to part 2 of the Band-in-a-Box RealDrums video. In this video we're going to show you how you can create your own RealDrums style. Before we begin, you have to familiarize yourself with some Band-in-a-Box terminology. We'll start with styles in general. A Band-in-a-Box style is what you load from the style picker. It's entirely comprised of MIDI information for all instruments, piano, bass, and the other instruments that are designated for the style, and of course MIDI drums. A Band-in-a-Box style is a single file with the file extension .sty. A RealDrums style is an actual audio file containing drum patterns recorded by a studio drummer, along with a text file that gives Band-in-a-Box instructions on how to interpret the WAV file. A RealDrums group is a group of styles that share similar file names and similar stylistic plane, the only difference being that they are recorded at different tempos. Here we have a number of RealDrums styles in the Band-in-a-Box directory, and in order for them to work they have to be in the main Band-in-a-Box directory in a folder called Drums, and then in a subfolder named after the group, in this case Jazz Brushes. So we have Jazz Brushes 60, 70, 100, all the way up to 300. Each pair of WAV files with text files is a separate RealDrums style. For example, these two styles make up Jazz Brushes 120. Altogether, all of these styles make up the Jazz Brushes style group. Now, Band-in-a-Box styles can be combined with these RealDrums styles group, and when a song is played with this combination, Band-in-a-Box will find the RealDrums style in the group with the closest tempo to the song and will use that file for the song. In part 1 of this video, we showed you various ways of combining a Band-in-a-Box style with a RealDrums style. Now, just a little bit more terminology before we get to the fun part of making the styles. Both Band-in-a-Box styles and RealDrums styles have two subsections, an A subsection and a B subsection. Sometimes the differences are drastic, sometimes very subtle. This emulates real-life playing, where you often play differently in different parts of a song. In Band-in-a-Box, you determine which substyle gets played at any point in the song by placing part markers, just by clicking on the bar numbers. In this example, we have some part markers, so any instrument, whether generated by a Band-in-a-Box style or by a RealDrums style, will play A section parts for the first 8 bars. We'll then play B section parts between bars 9 and 24, and then we'll return to A section parts from bars 25 to 32. You may ask, why did you put a part marker at bar 17 if the B section part is already playing? Well, these part markers have a dual function. They also determine where drum fills will be played. Drum fills are always played in the bar immediately prior to a part marker. So bar 8 will be a fill, and you can hear a fill coming right now. Bar 16 will be a fill, 24, and 32. Now, fills often require a special bar after them, often but not always with a cymbal crash on the downbeat to complete the fill. Let's listen here. Now, we call these bars PostFill bars, and since the fill is immediately before a part marker, the PostFill bars always occur in the bar where the part marker is located. The bars in between are called normal bars. The other types of bars are the count-in bars and the ending bars. The count-in is comprised of 2 bars that occur before bar 1, unless you have them disabled. And the ending is comprised of 2 bars that get played at the end of your song. So to review, we'll go through this song that we've got here and name the types of bars. Before bar 1 is 2 bars of count-in, then we have an A post-fill at bar 1, 6 bars of normal A section bars, then an A section fill at bar 8. We then switch to B and have a B post-fill at 9, then 6 bars of normal B patterns, and then a B fill at 16. And this keeps going for the whole rest of the song. This from bars 1 to 32 will repeat 4 times because that's the number we have entered here. And then we'll have an ending once that's finished, 2 bars from 33 to 34. So this means that when we make a style, we have to make sure that it contains a 2-bar count in, at least one, but preferably a lot more, A section fills, post fills, and normal bars. And again, at least one, but preferably a lot more, B section fills, post fills, and normal bars. And 1 or more 2-bar endings. Now the other thing that can be played in a song is a shot or a push. When a chord is entered with a caret sign in front of it, this means a push. And I'll show you an example with this chord. I'll type caret and then the same chord, E flat minor 7. Now this symbol here means that it's a push. When a chord is typed with 2 or 3 periods after it, it's called a shot or a hold. And I'll show you an example with this chord. I'll type A flat 13 and then type 3 periods. And that means this chord will be held. Now when a push or shot is played with RealDrums, a short portion of the wave file, usually just a single drum hit, is added to the normal bars to emulate a drummer adding notes for shots or pushes. And I'll show you what this sounds like. Now before we get to actually making a style, let's have a more in-depth look at this very style we've been playing, Jazz Brushes 120. Now, as you'll recall, a RealDrums style is comprised of a wave file with recorded drumming and a text file with instructions on how Band in a Box should interpret the wave file. Let's look at the text file for Jazz Brushes 120. Now, the first item in the text file is the name of the wave file that needs to be referenced. In this case, Jazz Brushes 120 style.wave. The next line is an offset setting. Now often drummers will instinctively hit a drum or a cymbal a tiny bit ahead of the beat because it takes a few milliseconds for the sound to peak, and you want that peak to occur on the actual beat. As a result, you generally want the start point of a bar to actually occur a little bit ahead of the beat so that you hear the drum hit in its entirety. This setting determines how many ticks early the program will grab a bar of music, with a tick being 1/120th of a beat. It's also important to know that since the bar is grabbed early, it's also placed early on the track, so the feel will remain exactly the same. The decibel adjust determines how loud the drums will be. A drum recording may be a lot louder than DXI MIDI instruments, so if you enter a negative number here, it lowers the overall volume of the drums to match the MIDI instruments. Now the push amount determines how many ticks before the beat pushes are played. Now mathematically on a swing tune, an 8th note would be pushed 40 ticks and a 16th note would be pushed 30 ticks. But you can adjust this just depending on the feel of the drummer. And you can actually look in the wave file and find out exact amounts for how much this should be. And we'll do that later when we examine the wave files. Now we get into the actual bars of playing. You can see all these lines have the word pattern. That means they are bars that will be put onto the RealDrums track. The next part of the entry tells Band in a Box where the pattern is intended to be played. We have a count in, we have fills, normal patterns, post fills, and endings. The next entry on the line is whether or not the pattern is A or B substyle, or 0 means that it's not applicable. For example, count in is not applicable, so it gets a 0, whereas these patterns are A patterns. And down below, we have B patterns. The next entry is the weight, which determines how often a pattern will be played. When Band in a Box is picking a RealDrum pattern for a specific bar, it first determines all of the possible patterns that could be used, and then among those, the ones with higher weights have a greater chance of being picked. So for example, we have 5 PostFill patterns here, and each of them have a weight of 8. That means they have an equal chance of being picked. However, if I change this one to 1 and change this one to 4 and this one to 5, well then these 2 PostFill patterns would be played much more frequently than these ones, and this last one here would be played very infrequently. The weight has to be a number between 1 and 8, or 9 is a special case, meaning that if there's a pattern with a weight of 9, any patterns with a weight of 8 or less are eliminated as possibilities. So if I made this a 9, that means these patterns here would never be played. Or if I made these ones 9, then these 3 patterns would be played, but these would never be played. So you have to be very careful when using 9 as a weight. It's generally best to use a number between 1 and 8. The next entry is the mask. This is used if you want a pattern to only be played a certain number of bars after a part marker. A 0 means it can be played anywhere, and you can see these patterns all have zeros. An entry of 1 or 2 means that it's an odd or even number of bars after the part marker. So for example, this normal pattern here has a mask of 1, so it can be played 1 bar after a part marker, or as the 3rd bar after a part marker, 5th, 7th, etc. Down below here we have a normal pattern that can only be played on bar 3. The next entry is for how many bars a pattern can last. These can be as high as you like. You just have to really examine the wave file to see what appropriate groups of bars will be. In these examples, these postfills are all 8-bar postfills. Here we have some patterns that are 4 bars long. Down below we have patterns that are 2 bars long. And then some 1-bar patterns. The final entry is the bar number that the pattern occurs in the wave file. One thing you need to remember is that Band in a Box considers the 2-bar counting to be bars -1 and 0. So the first bar of actual music is bar 1. This is the same in the RealDrums wave file. So if you're making the style in an audio editor, just remember that if your editor tells you you're at bar 1, in the style file you'll have to enter that as 1 minus 2, which is -1. If your audio editor tells you you're at bar 9, you have to enter that as 9 minus 2, which is 7. So in this example here, we have the count in at bar -1, which in your audio editor will appear as bar 1. And here we have some patterns. This one starts at bar 1, that will actually be bar 3. Here this says bar 9, that will actually be bar 11. 17 will actually be 19, etc. So as you can see, we've got a lot of patterns to choose from in this style. These are all A patterns. Now here we've got some B patterns. And at the bottom we've got some lines that do not say pattern at all, but rather say shot. These are for either shots or pushes. If the line says shot 1, that's used for pushes. If it says shot 0, that's used for shots or holds. The next entry tells you what bar the shot occurs in the wave file. Remember again that Band in a Box considers the first bar of the wave file to be -1, so you have to take that into account when entering the shot bar. This says 67, but it would appear in an audio editor as 69. This would appear as 70, 71, etc. The next entry tells you how many ticks after or before the beat the shot starts. In this case, it's 3 ticks. So the shot actually occurs 3 ticks before bar 69 in the wave file. These ones are both 5 ticks. The next number tells you how many ticks the shot should last. Remember that 120 ticks is a beat, so 360, this means these shots last for a total of 3 beats. This last number is the weight, and that works the same as the weight for other patterns. In this case, shot 0, which is shots or holds, there's only one pattern, so this will always be selected for that. But in these cases, these are for the pushes. There are 2 possibilities for pushes. So this one has a weight of 5, and this one has a weight of 7. So this one will be picked slightly more often than this one. What we're going to do now is recreate this Jazz Brushes 120 style. We're going to have a look at the wave file in PowerTracks Pro Audio, and we'll then recreate the text file based on the information that we discover. Here we have Jazz Brushes 120 style.wave opened up in PowerTracks Pro Audio. Let's listen to just a little bit of it.
Thank you.
And here we've got a template text file. So we're just going to enter the information here from the wave file. So first of all, we just need to enter the wave name, and that's jazzbrushes underscore 120 style.wave. So no problem there. The next value we have to enter is the offset value. So for this, we're going to have to go back into PowerTracks and analyze the file just a little bit. What we'll do here is we'll zoom in on a few bars and just look and see how many ticks early the waveform starts. So let's just pick a couple of random bars. We'll start off here with bar 7. Now if we click on right on the beginning of bar 7, you can see that this is the wave file for a drum hit that occurs right on the downbeat there. And the beat peaks right at bar 7, but it starts a little bit early. So let's figure out just how early. We'll drag it to where the waveform starts. Now the start and end point here are displayed here and here. So we can see that it starts. This is at bar 6, beat 4, 111 ticks. So what that means is this is 9 ticks early because there's 120 ticks in a bar. So if this occurs at 111, that means it's 9 ticks early. So we'll take note of that and look at a couple others because drummers are obviously not machines, and they'll play a little bit differently at different beats. At beat 8, it looks like it starts right there, so maybe it's only about 2 ticks early. See, beat 4, tick 118. So we'll take note of that. Let's go a little bit further in the song and we'll just pick a few other bars. What we want to do is just basically get an average here. Let's see, this one here is at, looks like it starts about 7 ticks early. So basically, if we put an offset of 9 with the information that we've taken so far, that seems to be about a safe bet. What that means is that every single bar will be picked 9 ticks early, but it will also be placed 9 ticks early. So it's not actually adjusting the wave file, and it's not placing it differently. So the feel should be exactly the same. So we'll enter that as the offset value, -9. Now the next value we have to enter is the decibel adjust. We'll just pick a value right now because this is something that you adjust later on once you start playing the style with band-in-a-box styles. So I'll just put -10, and that means when this gets played with band-in-a-box, it will reduce it by 10 decibels. Now these values, the push amounts, we can actually measure. So we'll go back into PowerTracks. What we're going to do now is we're just going to take a look at a few individual bars, and we're going to see when the drummer plays 8th notes, now these are swung 8th notes, how many ticks before the next beat do those 8th notes occur? Now mathematically, one beat is 120 ticks. So if you divide that in 3, because swing is basically triplets, you'd get 40. But drummers don't often play mathematically like that. So we're going to have a look at this example, and we're going to see just how far ahead of the beat. So we'll zoom in here. This is now bar 14. We'll just play it first. Now we'll have a look at this particular beat here. So we'll zoom in on beat 4, and we'll see how many ticks this 8th note gets played before beat 4. So we can see we're at beat 3, 78. So if you subtract 78 from 120, you get 42. So we'll just take note of that for now. And we'll check out a couple of other bars. How about this one here, bar 16? We'll zoom in there. Here's the 8th note that gets played right before bar 16. And that occurs 33 ticks before the downbeat. So there's a bit of difference there. You can look at more, but right now we'll just take the difference between the two and we'll say 37. So we'll enter a value of 37 there. Now mathematically, 16th notes would be 30 ticks. So we'll just leave that one as is. So the next thing we'll do is actually enter the bars of music into this text file. Let's go back to the wave file. Now, as you recall, this says bar 1, but it's actually bar -1 and 0, because those are the counting bars. And the drumming actually starts here, and while it says bar 3, we enter it as bar 1. Now, drummers often play in 8-bar phrases, and that's what the drummer has done in this instance. Let's listen to these 8 bars. So starting at bar 3, we there have a post-fill bar, which means there's a bit of a symbol at the beginning of it. And to end it, we have a little bit of a fill. So we're going to enter these bars into the text file. One other thing to consider is that you can put masks on bars to specify that you only want them to occur a certain number of bars after a post-fill. Let's listen to the 4th bar of this pattern again. Here's the first one. Now, the second one, the third one, and here's the 4th one. Now, it's not exactly a fill, but there's a certain element in it that you will always want that to be played on the 4th bar. So we'll take that into account when we enter this in our text file. Now we'll enter the 6 bars of normal patterns that occur between the post-fill and the fill at the end of the 8-bar pattern. So again, we'll type pattern normal, because it's a normal pattern. Again, it's an A section pattern. And again, we'll give it a weight of 5. And a mask of 2, which means it will only be played on even bars. So it could be played 2 bars after a post-fill, or 4, or 6. And the length, 1 bar, and this one occurs at bar 2. For the next one, again, it's a normal pattern, A section. Again, we'll give it a weight of 5. And this one will give a mask of 1, so this one will only be played on odd bars. Length of 1, and the bar number in the wave file is bar number 3. So the next one you'll recall is the 4th bar of the 8-bar phrase, and we specifically said that we only want this bar to occur 4 bars after a post-fill. So we're going to give this one a mask of 4. So we'll enter pattern, normal, A, a weight of 5, and here we enter 4 for the mask. We only want this bar to occur at bar 4, 4 bars after a post-fill. The pattern is 1 bar long, and in the wave file it occurs at bar 4. The next one we'll enter again as a weight of 5, a mask of 1, so it only occurs on odd bars, 1 bar long, and it occurs at bar 5. The next one, same, we'll enter this as an even one, so we'll give it a mask of 2, 1 bar long, occurs at bar 6. The next one, again a weight of 5. We'll say we only want it to occur on odd bars. 1 bar long, it occurs at bar 7. Now finally we've come to the bar that is a fill. So we'll enter pattern and we'll enter fill. Again, it's still A section. We'll give it a weight of 5 again. And you don't need to give fills masks because they only will ever occur immediately before a post-fill. So we'll give it a mask of 0, a length of 1, and it occurs in the wave file at bar 8. Now we could do the same, continue along and enter values for all of the rest of the A section. But basically we've got enough information here that when Band in a Box tries to find patterns for A section, it will be able to pick something for any eventuality. So what we'll do now is we'll skip ahead to the B section and enter some values for that. Now the B section starts here at bar 35. And like the A section, this is all recorded in 8-bar phrases. So we can basically do exactly the same thing for the B section that we did for the A section. Just enter these 8 bars. Now the good thing about doing this in just a simple text editor is that you can copy and paste. So we'll copy these 8 bars and simply paste them and we'll just make the necessary changes. First of all, we'll change the substyle on all of them to B, and then we'll change the bar numbers. Now as you recall, the B section started at bar 35, but in actuality, because of the -1 and 0 at the beginning, this is actually bar 33. So if we just change this to 33, and then change the next one to 34, then 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40, and we're done. We don't have to do all of the same work over again. And you can pretty much do this with the entire file as well. So now, while there are a lot of other bars in the WAV file that we can continue to do in this manner, we've basically got enough information to cover both the A section and the B section. We've got at least one postfill, at least one normal pattern, and we've got many normal patterns, and at least one fill for both. This will make a style that won't have very much variation, but it will at least cover all eventualities. But there are two other kinds of patterns that we need to add. We need to add a count-in, and we need to add at least one ending. So the count-in is easy. We already know that it occurs at bar -1. So we'll enter pattern, then count-in. It's neither A or B, so we just enter a 0. You can give it a weight of 5, but it really doesn't matter, and a mask of 0. And this is important. The count-in is 2 bars long, so we have to enter 2 for 2 bars long. And it occurs at bar -1. So there we have our count-in. In this WAV file, there are actually 2 endings that we can add. Let's just listen to the end of the WAV file here. So the first ending occurs at bars 65 and 66. And then another ending occurs at bars 67 and 68. So we'll enter both of those endings. So again, we have to type pattern and ending, and we'll type a 0, which means it's A or B, it doesn't matter. And a weight of 5, a mask of 0. Endings are always 2 bars long, so we enter a 2. Now that first ending occurred at bar 65, but because of the -1 at the beginning, we have to change that to 63, so we'll type in 63. And now we'll enter the other ending, and like we did before, we can just copy and paste. And all we have to do is just change the bar number. So the next ending starts at 67. Again, because of the -1, we can change that to 65. So we have 2 endings, and Band in a Box will randomly choose between the 2 of these. On these ones, I'll enter a different weight. Say we wanted this second ending to occur more frequently, and we don't want to hear the first ending quite as much. We can change the weight of that to 1, and we'll change the weight of this to 7. That means 7 out of 8 times it will pick this pattern as the ending, but 1 out of 8 times it will pick this pattern as an ending. So we've now got all of our patterns covered that Band in a Box needs to be able to play this RealDrum style. But the last thing we have to enter are the shots. So let's go back to the WAV file. Now there are 3 shots that the drummer has played at the end of this. Let's just give them a listen. Now these shots occur at bar 69, bar 70, and 71, and it looks like each one lasts about 3 beats long. Now let's take this first one and we'll zoom in on it. Now we can already see that the waveform starts a little bit before bar 69, so we have to determine exactly how much. So we'll do the same thing we did before. We'll just highlight the area between the start of the waveform and bar 69, and we'll look up here and we can see that it's about 3 ticks before bar 69, because as you recall, a beat is 120 ticks and this starts at tick 117. So let's go back to the text file. So first of all, we'll just type shot, and the first one we'll do is we'll enter a 0, which is a push, and the bar number, it was bar 69, but because of the -1 and 0 at the beginning, we enter 67. The tick offset is what we just figured out. It actually occurs 3 ticks before bar 67, so we'll enter -3. And the length, we figured out it was about 3 beats, and a beat is 120 ticks, so that's 360 ticks. And we'll give it a weight of 5. And we'll do the same with the next one now. We'll zoom out, and we'll zoom in on bar 70. And this looks like it occurs at about 4 ticks before bar 70. So we'll enter this as shot 1, which is shot or hold. The bar number is 70, but because of the -1, we change it to 68. We figured out that the tick offset needs to be -4. And again, this is about 3 beats long, so we'll enter 360 and we'll give it a weight of 5. So this is really all that Band in a Box needs for shots as well. We have a shot in the eventuality that we have a push in the song, and we have one for shots or hold, which is when you type 2 periods or 3 periods after a chord in Band in a Box, it plays a shot or a hold. So this is now a complete text file for a RealDrums style. As you can see, it's quite a bit smaller than the ones we viewed earlier, but this does contain the bare essentials that Band in a Box needs. So what we need to do is save it with the same file name as the WAV file, but with the file extension txt. So we'll do that right now. We'll save it as Jazz Brushes 120. And now we can go to Band in a Box and listen to this style that we've created. And here's the style that we've created. From bars 2 through 7, Band in a Box will randomly pick from the A section normal bars that we entered. 8 will be the fill that we entered. And now we have B section playing, post fill and normal bars. And a fill here at bar 16. Now, once you've made one style, you can use that as a template for making more styles in the future. For example, if you recorded another drum part that was a different style of music, but still had a post fill at bar 1, and then normal patterns from 2 through 7, a fill at bar 8, and then continued in 8-bar phrases, you could take all of these lines and just copy them into a new text file. You would, of course, change the wave name, and you might change some of these settings, and you might make a few fine-tune adjustments to some of the patterns. But basically, you could just take it from one style to the next, and make an infinite number of styles. This can also be a very effective method when you're making RealDrum styles with drum loops. Of course, you have to make sure that you have the rights to use the drum loops in question, but you can easily piece together various drum loops into a single wave file, and if you always piece them together in the same order, you can use the same text file for a variety of different RealDrum styles. I hope you've enjoyed this Band in a Box RealDrums style set tutorial. Have fun!